Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Pratika and my channel is Mama Hustle. I'm a mom of two, a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And today I would like to talk to you a little bit about self-weaning, what self-weaning your babies is, what are the advantages, disadvantages of self-weaning your baby, and why I chose to self-wean my first child and I plan to do the same for my second. So stay tuned. Just a little bit of a disclaimer. This is not a very structured, I don't have any notes or anything. I just thought I will sit down with you one on one and talk about this. So if you're doing anything like doing your dishes or, taking care of laundry or, writing emails, you can have this video on the background. You don't really need to see my face. So, with that, let's get started. So, what self weaning really is allowing your baby to wean off of your breast milk on their own. So, not stopping them from breastfeeding or weaning them consciously, but letting them very naturally self wean off of breast milk. So, in India, this was a norm till about the 60s and the 70s when formula companies started to become big in India, and the 80s was pretty bad for breastfeeding. Actually, breastfeeding rates dropped a lot in India, and the reasons for that were formula companies pushing stuff to pediatricians who then pushed it to moms being told their milk was not enough, and self-weaning and weaning of babies really early actually started, around this time. Moms were told that if they don't wean their babies, that means that they will not eat solid foods enough and they will not gain a little bit of weight. This was actually advice given to them by pediatricians. And so moms in the 70s and 80s started weaning off their babies as early as 4 months, 5 months, and starting solids immediately, giving formula, giving things like Cerelac and other baby cereal that was again pushed by the cereal companies, Nestle and all of these companies. And so what happened here was that it became the norm to wean your babies really early. Uh, but if you know the worldwide average of weaning babies is like 4 years. So there are many countries all over the world, in Asia, in Africa, in pretty much all over the world, where people are nursing babies till the age of 4 years of age sometimes, and that is totally normal in those countries. But in India and some other countries, it became like this bad thing of letting your babies continue to have breast milk post the age of 6 months, post the age of 1 year. It was unheard of. So when I was nursing my 2 year old, when she was 2 years old, it was, I got really weird comments from people saying, she's going to not want to eat regular food, which was not the case, that she would get too attached to me, which was not the case, trust me. And so self weaning is just basically that, letting the baby on their own decide that they do not want to nurse anymore, and just letting that be. Now, let's talk a little bit about the advantages of self weaning and allowing the baby to nurse past the age of 1, which is called extended breastfeeding. So, two main advantages for me is when your toddlers and your babies are teething or sick or scared or traveling or any of those things, they, whenever there's like a change in their bodies and their environment, the first thing they're going to do is stop eating food. So they're going to stop solids. This happens with most babies. It definitely happened with both my babies. If your child is a little bit different, I totally understand that. But for most babies, whenever they're sick, whenever they're teething, whenever they're traveling, they're going to stop eating solid foods. And during that time, especially when they're sick, you want to make sure that they are getting their fluids and they're getting their nutrition. And breast milk is an excellent way to do that. So for my 1 year old, if he, is teething or not eating solid foods for whatever reason, I don't worry about his nutrition because I know he's still breastfeeding multiple times a day. And actually, his breastfeeding rate increases when he is not eating solid foods. And so I don't have to worry at all about whether or not he's getting enough water, whether or not he's getting enough nutrition. And I can be sure that he is, getting all of the vitamins, minerals, protein, whatever it is that he needs. He's good even if he's not eating food. So that was my my first advantage. And my second advantage is that, when you have like a toddler, like above the age of 1.5, you kind of know how difficult some of the toddler tantrums can be. There is a terrible twos, and it can be really hard, especially when your kid is under a lot of stress, if he's scared or if she's scared, if she's at the doctor's office or what have you. She's going to be throwing some really big, I wouldn't call them tantrums because I feel like tantrum is a really negative word, but she's going to be having episodes. And during that time, nursing is like a superpower. So if your 1.5 year old is having a really tough time, let's say at the supermarket, you could just sit down, nurse her for 5 minutes, and her complete temperament is going to change. This is what happened with both my kids. And so it for me it was like, dealing with the toddlerhood of it all was so much easier while traveling, while at home, while shopping, while out and about, while at friends' houses. It was so much easier for me to deal with that if I knew that I could just sit with her for 5 minutes, just nurse her, and it would completely calm her down. And the third advantage, obviously, is that it's just easier to put them to bed while nursing. But then again, that is completely up to you if you would like to nurse to sleep. I feel like there are advantages and disadvantages of that as well. So those are the advantages those are the reasons that I chose to let my babies self-wean and extended breastfeeding, because it's so much easier to deal with all of these things, and it's important that they are getting all of the nutrition from breast milk. Breast milk doesn't stop being nutritious after the age of 1. So that's really important for me. So those are the two reasons why I chose to extended breastfeed. I have to say here that breastfeeding looks very different at the age of 1. Sorry. Breastfeeding looks extremely different at the age of 1 than it did at the age of 6 months. Your kids don't nurse as often as the older they get. So at the age of 1.5, my daughter was nursing about maybe twice a day or 3 times a day, and then it would increase if she was teething or not well. And then she would nurse, on and off during the night. But during the day, she pretty much nursed maybe once or twice a day, and that was because she was completely busy doing other things. So it looks different. It's not like you're going to be nursing forever and ever, all those 2.5, 3 years that you're nursing. Now the disadvantages of extended nursing are that a lot of times they kind of really demand to nurse, because toddlers can be really insistent and persistent, and you could be doing something, talking to a friend, or um, in a place where you can't really nurse, and they will completely demand that and have a full-on meltdown. That would be like one disadvantage for me, and it happened to me a bunch of times. I wouldn't say a bunch of times, but a couple of times when my daughter wanted to nurse and she kept pulling my top up. But that's a small price to pay for the advantages, in my opinion, and that is why I chose to self-wean both of my babies. So that was my story. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about is that you are going to hear people saying that, hey, they're going to be weirdly attached to you, they're not going to eat enough solid foods. All of these things are going to be told. Your pediatricians are going to tell you that if they haven't read the recent research and all of that. And I would say, as a mom, you know what your child needs. As a mom, you know if your child, it's advantages for your child to nurse, you know that. So if somebody is telling you, you need to stop breastfeeding, and give you like weird ideas. I've heard all sorts of things. Put like scotch tape on your breasts or like weird things, and that's just, to me, so sad. If you are in a place where you can breastfeed, of course there are moms who work out of the house or are traveling and they're away from their babies, and I completely get that. I know that we're all trying to do the best for our kids, and if that's you, you cannot physically breastfeed your child because you're away from them. I totally get that. This is not for you. This is for moms who can and want to, but their social setup is telling them or discouraging them to extend breastfeeding. So this is for completely for those moms. And if somebody is telling you that you need to do that, you need to stop breastfeeding for whatever reason, I would say as moms, we have an instinct about our children. And if your instinct is telling you that, it's totally fine that you breastfeed your children or breastfeed your baby, you should totally go ahead and do that. It's your baby, it's your body, and you make the decisions. And just completely listen to that, and of course, if you're a mom who's going to be traveling, is going to be away from the baby for whatever reason, and your milk is going to dry up, your babies will be fine, obviously. If you're not breastfeeding till the age of 2.5, 3 years old, what have you. But if you would want to breastfeed your children, you totally should do so. I don't think there's anything wrong with letting babies self wean. So I did that with my daughter, and she very naturally self weaned around the age of 2.5. And I plan to do the same with my mom. Sorry, my son. my mom, my son. I'm just gonna be following his lead, what he wants to do. And I understand that I have the advantage of being with him. I work from home, so it's easy for me to do that. But that's what I plan to do with my son as well. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have, please, any experiences around extended breastfeeding, put it in the comments below. I would love to hear more from you. Your story is super important to me. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content like this, do hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, and if you are watching this on Instagram, do follow me at Mama Hustle. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.